Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Tuesday Night Live. Thanks for joining me. Today we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Yeah, go ahead and, as always, put in the chat where you're watching from, and we'll shout you out where you're watching from. I think that's always fun. Those of you, if you're watching the replay, because I know actually probably about 80 to 90% of you watch this on replay, join us every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. That'd be fun. But yeah, if you're watching a replay, put a comment down below where you are watching from. I think that'd be fun to see, because maybe, maybe you're on like the other side of the earth or something like that. So I don't know. I think that'd be cool. But anyway, we're going to roll the intro, let a few more people come and join us on this Tuesday Night Live. So I'll be right back. All right. What's up, everyone? We got Plots 33 in the house. First to comment tonight. Good evening from Illinois. Aaron Townsend's here. Hello, everyone from Victoria, Texas. It's awesome. Ultra Dad's here. Good evening from Middletown, Ohio. Nice. Right next door. James is here from South Jersey in the house. Awesome. James and I, we'll plug this right now. We're just going back and forth on Discord talking about the new Western States qualification entry lottery process. And so I'm sure we'll talk about that tonight. If you guys haven't seen that, we will talk about that. What's up, Michael Powell? What's up? Checking in from Brownstown, Indiana. Nice. That's really close. I've been down there a lot, actually. Can't wait to see you at OPSF 50K. Sweet. It's going to be muddy. Oh my gosh. If you're telling me it's going to be muddy and you live down there, I believe you. Oh man, it's going to be so muddy. Michael Kraus. Hello from Missouri. How's it going? Dugos Films. NWT Canada in the house. Awesome. Aaron says, yeah, getting that 10,000 subscriber merch ready. Going to be happening soon. Yeah, I'm working on it, and I'm excited to, like, it's fun, like, kind of like flexing like a little bit of different kind of like creativity process, designing, stuff like that. Obviously I do video most of the time. I don't do a whole lot of graphics. I've gone back and forth, talked to a couple like graphic designers, some really, really awesome people, and haven't really been able to land on anything from any of them, or like been able to pick someone that to like move forward with that really worked out great. So if you're a graphic designer and you're interested, definitely contact me, because I'm still like, I have a basic design and logo and sort of like kind of like a little bit fleshed out like designs for some stuff, but nothing set in stone yet. So if you are, if you know anything about Adobe Illustrator, you probably know more than me. We'll just say that. But yeah, contact me. What's up, Sarah? Oh, good evening from San Francisco. Fernando, hello from Chicago. Awesome, guys. David Jobs, good evening, Northern Virginia. 3 weeks to the 24-hour race. Nice. Awesome. Oh shoot, before we get too far into this, I always want to, shout out. Let's see, where are we going? Here we are. We're going to shout out the new channel members. Thank you guys so much for joining. Over the last week, we've had 4 new members in the last week, which is awesome. Jeff Del Rio, Eric Ruman, Stephen Doyle, and Eduardo Sanchez. Thank you guys so much. I programmed a sound just for you. I hope this is the right one. Yeah, we're clapping. Okay, cool. That was really corny. But anyway, thank you guys so much. If you guys like what I'm doing here, becoming a member of the channel is the best way to support what I'm doing. So thank you guys for doing that. We'll see who else we got in the house. CK Hiker, hello from Superior, Colorado. Awesome. Aaron Tice is here from Brisbane, Australia, on the other side of the earth. Nice. Yeah, and also just to remind you guys, this show, we go where you want to go. This is totally listener supported, so ask your questions. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Within some boundaries, there's some stuff that came up in this week or so that I'm not. Oh, what's up, Graham Angus? Super chat. What's up, brother? Toronto, Canada, checking in. Looking forward to hearing about your opinions on Barkley and Western States. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Graham. That means a whole lot to me. We'll talk about both of those. Not so much the controversies, because I'm not going to get into that. And in fact, it's already pretty much all smoothed itself out by now. If you've been paying attention to that, it's kind of anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, we'll talk about some of that stuff tonight. Dalen Williams, what's up? Let's go. Checking in from West Point, New York. Tyler's here from Colorado Springs. Dobbs is here from Costa Rica. Brian G from Northern Virginia. What's up? James says the description from the live event still shows for info from last week. Whoops. Sorry, that's my bad. I'll fix that after the show. Thanks for catching that, James. That's awesome. Looking out for each other. Thank you so much. Brian Steinberg, runs too much. Grand Rapids. Awesome. Brian, I've been watching your videos. You've been putting out a lot of good stuff recently. Thanks, man. It's some good entertainment. So if you don't know Brian, check out his channel. John Truelove, what's up? Hey, from Terre Haute. Let's get it started with the Barkley last. Crap. Nope. No thanks. Super chat from Laura Bellman. Awesome. Thanks for joining, Laura. That is so cool. Thank you so much. Eric says, cool, glad to help. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. So I think first off, it would be cool to talk about the new Western States qualification entry process. If you guys don't know, I'm trying to pull it up right now on my screen. Western States, in order to qualify, it was pretty difficult to, obviously, to get in. You have to run a 100-mile qualification race. You have to get your name in the hat every year. You consecutively do that. Your tickets build. And so it's just been kind of, it's been a little, there's been some complaints recently. So we're going to bring this up here on the screen. Hopefully you guys can see that. Western States lottery changes announced. Let's check this out. So first off, the biggest change is that you no longer need to have consecutive qualifiers to keep your ticket count in the lottery. Everybody, once you, the tickets will continue to accumulate every time you have a qualifier and apply. You still have to have a qualifier to apply. So you can't just apply every year, without running 100-milers. And then, they give a couple examples down here. But the biggest thing was kind of like during the pandemic, people weren't able to run 100-milers because a lot of people in the world don't live close to qualifying races. Maybe there's only one in your region within hundreds of miles, and if that one got canceled, you're just totally out of luck. Those of us in the U.S. and some other places in the world have a lot of access to these 100-mile races, and so it wasn't as big of a problem, but that's basically what's happening. They give a lot of examples too of the one-time lottery buy is eliminated, the pregnancy lottery deferral is eliminated because it's no longer necessary. You can withdraw from the race before 1 p.m. on the day before the race and maintain your ticket count. That's huge. I'm reading that right? Entrants who withdraw from the race before 1 p.m. on the day before the race will maintain their ticket count from their most recent lottery the next time they enter the lottery. So basically what that is that's going to create a whole lot of chaos. I don't know if I actually really like that rule right there, because say you're like 15 or 20 on the wait list. What do you do? Like, do you have to travel to California? Because what if you get called? Like, what if 10 or 15 people withdraw the day before the race? I don't know about that. And then they kind of further define the pregnancy entry deferral a little bit. But yeah, biggest thing is that what's happening now moving forward is that it opens up a lot of possibilities for runners, because one thing that I have always kind of not really, like, I wouldn't say like struggled with, but it's always been kind of on my mind, is that like I have to get at least a Western States qualifier every year. And so that's like the first 100 miler that I sign up for every year. And then after that, it's like, okay, then I can try some other races, maybe ones that aren't qualifiers. But then there's always that danger of like, what if you DNF or you hurt yourself or something? You have to eventually run during that calendar year, you have to run a qualifier. And so it just put a whole lot of stress on a lot of people, and myself included. And then it also kind of deterred you from trying out different 100 milers. And No Business, for example, the 100 miler I ran last year is not a Western States qualifier. And I've always heard of it as being a good race, but it wasn't ever high up on the list because I always knew that I needed to get that. I needed to get at least one qualifier. And I'm the type of person where over the last couple of years, mainly from injuries and stuff like that, but I haven't always, I've only been able to complete 100 miler per year. So, this I think is going to be a good thing. There's some talk out there on Twitter and stuff that this is going to be really bad, and it's going to make the already extremely bloated lottery even bigger, because people are just going to keep, like, their tickets are going to go on forever, basically. Like, you could take 2 or 3 years off and then jump back in, run a 100 miler qualifier, get all your tickets back. So some people are saying it's going to make it worse. I actually don't know, and I kind of feel like they probably wouldn't have made this choice unless they had really done a lot of research into it and determined that it will probably actually, at least for a few years, is my opinion, is that the amount of applicants is actually going to go down, because there's going to be a lot of people that have not been loving that pressure of applying every year. And I know there's a lot of people that apply every year that don't even really want to run Western States that year, but they keep applying because someday they want to. So I think at least in the first couple years, I think we'll see the applicants go from 7,000 applicants, maybe down a little bit, or maybe stay the same, which is also kind of a reduction because it's the trend has been increasing by almost 1,000 a year over the last 5 years. So we'll see. Interested to see what you guys think about all that. Does that mean that, what does that mean for you? Like, are you going to take a couple years off? Are you going to, do you like that rule? Do you not like it? My opinion, I think my opinion is that I think it's a good change. It's going to be good for a lot of people. It's going to reduce a lot of stress and anxiety, and it's going to allow people who do have injuries or, maybe are trying to grow their family or anything like that. It's going to provide a whole lot of freedom, and just take a couple years off and get back into it. Not a big deal. So I think it's a good thing, but ultimately, it's up to the board, and it's their rules. It's kind of like Hard Rock. A lot of people complain about how hard it is to get into Hard Rock. It's just well, it's their rules. It's not the people's race. It's, it's their race. So, Graham says, rocking that Kofuzi shirt. Yeah, nice. Yep. Not elite. Definitely not an elite runner. Let's see. What are people saying? Ultra Dad says, don't you think people will always apply so they can keep accumulating tickets? If you don't apply, you don't get more tickets. Yeah, it's true. People will still apply even if they don't really want to run that year. I think there will be a lot of people like that, but I think there was a percentage of people, and I don't know how big it is, but there was a percentage of people that really didn't want to run a qualifier or even run Western States that year, but they just knew they wanted to someday. And if you're already 3 or 4 years into it, like, you start accumulating tickets really fast. After about 4 years, they start doubling pretty quickly, just because of the way it works. Like, the first year you get 1 ticket, the second year you get 2, third year you get 4, and then you get 8, 16, 32. So after about the 4th year of applying, you start to get a lot more tickets. But the interesting thing is, it's going to change a lot of the dynamics of like how it all shakes out, because some, like, maybe you'll have some years where it's a lot more even, the spread of like the 1 year applicants, 2 year, 3 year. I mean, currently it's like a pretty, like, I guess a downward graph. Like, the first year there's like over half the applicants were like first year applicants. So I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think? Boomdog Madness says, have you ever considered running Hard Rock? Yeah, I would love to. And that's why. So, that's also one of the big reasons of why I'm running the Cruel Jewel, is because it's a Hard Rock qualifier. Early on, I made the mistake. My first 100 was a Hard Rock qualifier. That was definitely a mistake. But one that kind of, got me on track to, every 2 years I run a Hard Rock qualifier. But if I don't finish Cruel Jewel, if I get hurt or something, or, something bad happens, it'll just be over. Like, I won't be able to have there's no more qualifiers that I think are even like open for the rest of this year. So, Cruel Jewel is my one shot to keep the Hard Rock dream going. And if it ends, it ends. Hard Rock is probably one of the hardest races to get into. That and Barkley. Yeah, the chances of getting into Hard Rock are, like, for me, every year they increase by like 0.5%. So it's like almost a lost cause, but it's a fun dream. But yeah, one day I'll eventually run the Ouray 100, I think is how you say it, just to get a taste of those mountains. Brian Steinberg says, I ran Western States in 2015. Looking forward to going back someday. So I had 16 tickets in the 2019 lottery. Still need another qualifier, so I'm on the wait list for Kettle Moraine now. Nice. That's a good race. Yeah, Ultra Dad says Hard Rock is virtually impossible to get into. Yep, definitely, for sure. All right, but let's, so if there's any other questions about this, James says, are there any ultras you'd never consider doing? I never is a, I don't know. I don't think I would ever say never. Currently I wouldn't want to run a track 100 miler on a 400 meter track. I have zero interest in that. And there's probably some others out there that I would look at and be like, yeah, not interested. But I also would never say never. The thought of running a 100 miler on roads doesn't sound so great, but maybe one day. Who knows? I don't know. I don't think, I would never say never. Just like, what is that Disney movie? I don't know. Dan Williams says, as a young ultra runner new to the game, I like new changes to the Western States lottery system. Yeah, that's a good perspective. It'd be interesting to hear what more people who are just getting into it their first year think, because there's a lot, especially over the last like 2 years, when the lottery system has been growing so fast. The applicants has just been growing like by almost 1,000 a year. There's been a lot of also, I don't want to say newer, but like people who are in their first or second year realizing the impossibility or the incredibly small chance of being picked and getting really kind of depressed about that or negative online. And I think it's just a game. If you want to play the game, you play the game. If you don't, just move on. Like there's tons of awesome ultras out there. Like No Business wasn't a qualifier up until all the way till last year when I ran it. But now starting next year, it is a qualifier. So I would, I think this is going to be really good for a lot of smaller races that aren't qualifiers, because that was a major, I talked to the race director just super briefly while I was down there. And he said that was, that was something that they've always been battling, was the fact that, it's not a qualifier, and, it's just like you're trying to get on that list. Because once you get on that list, like you become much more desirable for runners, because a lot of people are just looking to check that box every year. And so they're picking races based on that. So I think this change is going to really help small races get on the map a lot easier, because, like you say you want to take a year off of qualifying for Western States and just go around a couple that aren't on the list. So I think it's a good thing. Jeff says, I've been trying to get into hard rock for so many years. Crying emoji. Yeah, I don't know. So if I can apply again this year, this will be my 5th year of trying to apply for hard rock. Yeah, and it's probably never going to happen. But who knows? You could always get your name drawn out of a hat. Ultra Dad says, I'm tough. 100 still has 80 spots for September. That's a hard rock qualifier. Oh, cool. I am tough. I think I've heard of that. I think I've seen a couple people that have run that. Make the best of what's around says, what is your philosophy on cadence? Do you have a certain cadence targets for specific sections of Cruel Jewel? So like cadence as far as like steps, no, I really don't focus too much on that during 100 milers. Like during workouts, like I do try to, I will have like cadence targets for certain runs, certain workouts. But for a race, I really don't focus much on that. Going uphill is the only, probably the only exception to that, because I do try to quicken my steps uphill. Like you shorten your stride, take quicker steps. And at first you think, well, is that going to make it harder? But it actually, it decreases the load on your legs for every step. And so you might be taking more steps. You might be moving your legs faster, but the load is much less going uphill. And so that's the only time that I actually do try to focus on using a higher cadence, like during a race. I think that really helps a lot. Otherwise, no, I don't. Plus, the other thing is when you look back at your file after a 100 miler, like there's so much, there's so many sections where you're walking or hiking or standing at an aid station that it's kind of hard to like pull any data out of that's usable. You could look at certain sections, like if there was if you were trying to look at a downhill section or a certain flat section, or look at a climb or something like that, like you could key in on really specific sections of your race. But for overall stuff, it's just kind of some of that data is kind of hard to really pull information out of during a 100 miler. Let's see. Aaron Townsend says, "Go slay Badwater, Ryan." Oh, that's another one that I kind of have very little interest in. So So sorry, Aaron, if you really like that race. I like watching it and seeing coverage of it. Just being tall, like I'm 6'2". I feel like I have a disadvantage in the heat because I have a larger surface area. At least that's what I tell myself. But I don't know. I don't do super well in like sun type of heat. We'll see how I do at Cruel Jewel because that's going to be hot and humid. And I'm going to be kind of trying to work on that. I was actually talking to one of my friends, Matt, who is also doing Cruel Jewel. And we were kind of trying to kind of bounce ideas off each other about how we are going to train for that type of humidity in April and basically April, because once May hits, like you're tapering because the race is on May 14th. So how do you train in April for humidity in the Midwest? It's like not possible. So maybe like we talked about kind of layers, sweatshirts, jackets, just getting on the treadmill, putting a heater in the garage. I do have a heater in the garage that I was using during the winter. So I'll be cranking that thing on, probably wearing sweatshirts, and just really trying to be brutal about the heat training. But there's a lot of kind of like articles out there that really say you don't really have to like worry about that stuff until the last couple weeks. So the hard part about it is that when the last 2 weeks is usually, from what I've seen, the last 2 weeks about is kind of that most bang for your buck heat training. But that's also when I'm going to be tapering. And so I don't really want to be adding that much stress to my body. So I don't know. I might look at maybe like 4 weeks out, trying to do a bunch of like heat training sessions. And then maybe still kind of doing them in the last 2 weeks, but not anything super intense. It's going to throw off the taper, but we'll see. Let's see. James says, what makes the Hard Rock Lottery so hard to get into? Good question. So the Hard Rock, I forget how many people they let in. I think it's like 146 or 140, something like that. And I believe there's three sections of entrance. There's the never started, I think is what it's called, or maybe never finished. There's the finished less than 5 times, and there's finished more than 5 times. And if I'm wrong, somebody correct me on that, but I believe that's how it's set up. So everyone that's applying is in these different brackets, and there's a different amount of slots for each bracket. So even though there's like 140 slots, if you're a first timer or never finished, you're going against everybody for like 50 slots or something like that. So it's not that you don't even have as good of chance as just getting on the start line. Like you have to be selected for that small section that is allotted for people that have never started the race. So with all those people trying to apply, plus your qualifications last for 2 years. So that's good because you don't have to run a Hard Rock qualifier every year. Like that's one of the, I think that's a really smart way of doing it. But it also means that, people's qualifications last longer and things like that. So, and they also don't publish like anything. It's a total closed event. Like they pretty much they list the people that have been selected. I don't even know if they release the numbers on like how many people have applied. It's a pretty closed door event, which is fine. That's how they want to do it. It's their race. I don't care. But it's just really hard to get in because you're going up against probably a couple thousand people every year for like 50 slots. Jeff says, I paced a friend through the second half years ago. Next best thing, URA 100 is another very similar course with no lottery. Yeah, that's good. I think John, if you're still watching, didn't you do that race? It looks like it's a lot of like out and backs. Like you just climb a mountain, come back, climb another mountain, come back, climb another mountain, come back. Let's see. Bunch of fans of Jeff in the house. Awesome. Ultra Dad says Jeff or Ryan can speak to that better, but I think James is this year number. Combined reward for yeah. See, Jeff said, Ryan, sorry if I missed off the top, but how are you feeling for your race? Yeah, good question. Thanks. I haven't talked about that yet. So I have a 50K this Saturday, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. As far as like conditioning and being in shape and all that, I'm feeling fine. A little worried about the conditions because we're supposed to get a good amount of rain Thursday and Friday. Saturday it looks like it's going to be sunny, but it's just going to be sloppy. I mean, the course is going to be sloppy. It's going to be a lot of slipping and sliding. Over 50K, so 31 miles, there is 4,400 feet of gain, which I'm not worried about. But combined with mud and all that, like it could make it hard, could make it a little bit slower than I want it to be. But I'm feeling pretty good about like gear choices and everything, just feeling ready. Like my taper, I think I'm like yesterday, I was like, oh man, maybe should I have not pushed it, because on Sunday I did really one 10-mile run, but it was pretty high intensity the whole time because I wanted to get like the run on Saturday. I only did 15 miles because my legs just were like not feeling it. And so I cut the run a little bit short on Saturday. And so Sunday I was feeling good again. And so I was like, all right, let's get some intensity in. So I did 10 miles, averaging like close to like 7:10, 7:15 for the whole thing. Cause I was also testing out some new shoes that are under embargo. So I'm very excited to tell you guys about those. So I was also really excited to be wearing these shoes because they're race shoes. So I'm excited about that. Excited to share all that with you. But yeah, like, so Sunday I pushed pretty hard. And then Monday when I went for my run, I was like, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But then today I just kept it super easy and just did like 3 really short miles, mostly just like hiking on the treadmill. Tomorrow I'll do something pretty similar. Just keep it really low key. Thursday, probably go out and do maybe get a really short run, maybe get like a 1 mile kind of interval session in there, interval repeat in there. And then Friday, just really short, maybe like 3 miles again. So the taper, I think, will be fine for the race. Like tonight, like right now, like I'm feeling really lazy, which means taper's going well. So hopefully I continue to feel more and more lazy over the next couple of days. And then Saturday, like I'll just be ready to get out there and run. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a place that I went to go film for this race 3 years ago. So I'm really excited to see just kind of like what the trails actually look like, because I didn't get to see a ton of the trails. Like we would go in and out from aid stations and things like that, but not a whole lot of the trails. I mean, I know it's just gonna be nasty and muddy and it's gonna be hard, but I'm excited to race like with people. It's really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting being in a group of people again, honestly. But yeah, so I'm feeling good. Nothing's like hurting or anything like that. Like I don't have any pain, which is really good. So it's awesome. Let's see. Aaron says, I live in Texas. That is hot enough. Bad water is no interest for me either. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Seatown fan. Hey, Ryan, Badwater and Barkley are the ones I have no interest in. Yeah. Yeah, Barkley's one of those where it's like from about May to whenever it happens, I'm really interested in it. And then for like, while I'm watching the coverage on Twitter and for like 2 weeks after, I'm like, nope, never want to run that race. Never even want to, like, don't even think about applying, like, don't want anything to do with that race. But after about 2 weeks, it's like, oh man, like Barkley. I don't know. There's something wrong with us ultra runners. Michael Powell says, how do you prepare nutrition wise leading up to a race, and during? And then corrected it. How do you prepare for a race with nutrition leading up to and during? So I don't do a whole lot of, I don't change my diet at all leading up to a race. The only thing I will do is the night before, try to eat something pretty simple. Like honestly, just kind of like beans and rice sort of stuff. And then the morning of, something that works really well that I don't always do. Like sometimes I'll just have like some cereal or something, just something super easy on the stomach, but, something that if you can do it, it works amazingly. Is just like get some just like plain like white rice and some brown sugar. It sounds disgusting right now just talking about that, but if you can eat that for breakfast, like that gives you just like this like shot like right before the race. Eat a couple hours before the race, but just some rice and brown sugar, heat it up a little bit. Kind of tastes a little bit like I don't know, like so early in the morning you might think it's oatmeal. But that's a really good pre-race meal that I've done for a lot of races that works really well. And then during the race, there's a couple different strategies that I use at different times and for different races. My nutrition for 100 milers is still in development. I don't really know what I'm doing for that. I mean, I always feel like I do, and then I get into the race, and it's just like everything blows up. But for shorter stuff, like 50Ks, 50 milers, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what I can do. I can pretty much just do gels the whole time for anything up to 50 miles. But once it gets past 50 miles, it's like I need to do something else, and I haven't figured out what exactly yet. And maybe it's just always going to be a work in progress. But I use spring energy gels, and it kind of depends on how quick I want to be going. Like a shorter race, like a marathon or 50K, I might be going a little bit quicker, so I might be taking them more often. 50 miler, it might spread it out a little bit more. So somewhere in between like 30 to 40 or 45 minutes is kind of when that works the best for me, what I've found. If I start getting close to an hour in between gels for a shorter race, like a 50K or 50 miler, like then I start to have some problems. Things start to get a little off track. But if I can keep it to somewhere in between like 30 to 45 minutes, that's pretty good. A lot of times, like after like 6 or 7 hours of that, you don't really feel like doing it anymore. And so just trying to grab something from an aid station, but just keep like the slow trickle of calories in. And then I always drink water in my water bottles. And I do use the spring electrolyte mix. So if I'm sweating a lot, like a hot race, like I'll put that in my bottles. And that is really good. I mean, that's really good stuff. Like that really helps a lot. I think, somewhere. So for this race, I'll probably set a timer on my watch just to beep like, it has a nutrition alert on my Coros Vertex. That's what I'll be using for the race. It's like every 40 minutes just to remind me. If I'm eating stuff at aid stations or if I'm walking a lot, if things are going really bad, then I'm not going to be taking a gel every 40 minutes because that's just going to be like, probably won't need it at that point. But if I'm running the whole time, which hopefully I am, that's the plan. Oh, Sarah says, what's your nutrition strategy for Cruel Jewel? So kind of sort of the same thing. But it's going to be like once 50 miles comes around, it's going to be doing whatever works in the moment. Yeah, it just depends, kind of. For no business, once I got to 60 miles, it was just like I was done with the gels. Like my body just said, nope, you're done. And I had to eat like pretty much aid station food after that. And so that slowed me down quite a bit, which was really, really kind of disappointing because I couldn't stomach the gels anymore. And I didn't really have like what I had. Like I always think that before a race, I always think that I'm going to be really excited about pulling a Cliff Bar out of my pack, but they never sound good in a race. So I'm not going to waste my money on those anymore. They always come home with me and kids end up eating them for snacks. So I guess it's not a waste, but I never like Cliff Bars never sound good in the middle of a race. It's either gels or like those shot blocks, goo energy blocks, whatever those are. Just they're kind of like gummies sort of thing. So those are always good for races. And then, yeah, like sometimes, oh, what's up? Alex Barone, new subscriber. Thank you. Sometimes like some like crackers and stuff are good, or chips. That's good. That's good stuff during a race. But yeah, once I get past this race this Saturday, all my focus is going to be on Cruel Jewel, and a lot of it's going to be focused on obviously vertical, getting in the miles, but then really trying to dial in, figure out what I'm going to do for nutrition, figure out what I'm going to do for the heat. Yeah. So Arlene M says, would you ever do an expedition race like Marathon des Sables or Cape Wrath Ultra? And the answer is yes, I would love to. After seeing, whoa, I'm really behind on the chat. You guys are awesome. Sorry, I'm so far behind. I just realized that I thought it was scrolling with me, but it's not. Like there's a lot more comments after this. So I would love to do a stage race like that. And really, I never really thought I would, but after going to these 3 200-milers, it didn't make me want to do a 200-miler, but I did think maybe a stage race would be fun. So that would be cool. Let's see, a lot of questions about food. Kind of talked about that. Okay, here's a good one. Michael, how many calories do you try and take in per hour for 50K or 50 mile? My gels are 90 calories, I think. Some of them go up to, there are some Spring Energy gels that are 250 calories that I save for, like, those will be in my drop bag. If I'm really feeling bad, I'll pull out like a 250 calorie gel. But most of them are 90 or 100 or 110. And I like those because I can take those every like 30 to 40 minutes. Chase the Summit. Hi. How's it going, man? Let's see. Ageless Wanderer says, I have one question. I can't afford an expensive GPS watch, so must with cheaper option. The only one I can see it may work, Garmin Forerunner 45s. I think it is. Any other recommendations? Thanks. Yeah, actually, the guy that just had a comment, Chase the Summit, is the guy that you want to ask about that. Yeah, cheaper. So like the Garmin, I think you said what, 45s? Yeah, I think so, like 245, something like that. Like that's a good one. Also, if you're looking to just kind of like just get into it, a good one is the Coros Pace. Is that the right one? It's like $200. Just look up whatever the Coros one is. That's $200. Cause that has good battery life. And I think it does everything you want it to do. I don't think it has a trail running mode on it, but you can just use the running mode. But yeah, check out Chase the Summit's channel. He's got all the watch information. But yeah, I don't know exactly like something in that price range. Jonathan Elk says, best of luck at OPSF. I overtrained and injured my hip. Oh no. Planning to swim and bike as it heals. Maybe a half try once I'm healthy. Sorry to hear that. But yeah, half Ironman would be cool. I think that'd be really fun to go back and just do a half Ironman, because I could probably do if I tuned up my bike, I could do a half Ironman probably any day, like right now, as I'm in the training that I'm in now, running like 60, 70 miles a week, like I could get through it. It'd be fun to just go do one for fun. Find one on the weekend, just go do it. Just some dude says, finally I can make it on Tuesday Night Live. What up, Ryan? What up, everyone? What's up? Just some dude. Motivational Theory Running's here. Let's see. We got, okay. So Laura says, what is better about spring versus cliff gels? That question is a good one. I would not say that there's anything better about one or the other. It's all about what works for you. So I would recommend going to your running store and just buying like 2 or 3 of everything. Just spend $30 or $40. Just buy like 2 or 3 of everything. Or if you don't have a running store close, like try to find somewhere online where you can buy really small packages of like just 2 or 3. And then just test everything. Test all the big brands. I'm not going to name a whole bunch of them, but find the ones that, first off, like taste good to you. Like that's a big thing because you're not gonna use them if they don't taste good. And then second, like once you narrow down the ones you really like, figure out the ones that your body seems to, when you're taking it, like, can you take it on the run? Do you have to stop and walk to eat it because it's like so thick you can't get it out of the package? There's so many variables to all these gels. Everybody likes different ones. Some brands are really runny, so like you tear off the top, but it's like almost like water that like squirts out. Some of them are super thick, like a lot of people really like those Mirror Energy gels, and I just couldn't do it because they're like super short ingredient list. Like it's mostly just like dates, I think. But it's like, it was the hardest thing to get out of the package, and couldn't imagine doing it in cold weather, but like a lot of people love them. It didn't work for me. The ones that ended up working the best for me were Spring Energy gels, because they all tasted good to me. They're very easy to take on the run. Like I didn't have to stop and walk to just get it to rip the top open or get it out of the package. And then they all seemed to do well with my stomach, up to 50 miles. Like it was almost like, most of them, most of the flavors I could just take while I was running, and it didn't bother me at all. So, yeah. And again, I'm not like, I pay full price for these things. Like they don't sponsor me or anything. I just tell you guys what I like. But yeah, so I wouldn't say that one gel is better than the other. What I would say though is that different gels might work better for you. I mean, some people, I see a couple people saying that Spring or others are made out of real food, and the others are made out of like gel, sugar, and that is true. And some just works better for some people. So, Joel says those salted watermelon blocks are amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I agree. Motivational Theory. I haven't seen this one. I take a lot of squeezed baby food. Worked for years. Oh, actually, I've done that too. I didn't recognize what you were saying at first. But yeah, like I tried that one time, and just got they ended up, I only used them like one time because they're such big packages. But yeah, just go to like the baby food aisle. Like they come in like these individual packages, and you can get they work well. Let's see. Oh gosh, Dave, go ahead, try it. I'll pull up my live sub counter and we'll confirm or see if it works. Let's see here. Oh, you tried it. Thank you. No, not that. I take back my thank you. James says, I just ate like an entire bag of chips here watching this live stream. Does that count as carb loading for my half marathon race this weekend? Technically, yes. Yeah. All right, let's see. What we got here? Jeff, thanks, Sarah. Good to see you again. Love Ryan's content. Oh, thanks. Wow, that's awesome. Cole Smith just bought a Koros Apex. Nice. Man, that's a good feeling when you get a new watch. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Good luck learning how to use it. Actually, Koros is not that hard to figure out how to use. Yeah, I do wish they had like a web interface. Yeah, I just wish that, yeah, Koros, like that's the one thing they haven't really developed, like the software side of it as much as some others. But honestly, if you're just putting it on Strava, does it really matter? I don't know. The Leafy Bean Yoga. Hi, how's it going? Leafy Bean Yoga is in our Discord channel. You guys should check that out. Shannon says, first time joining. Hi, I have only participated in 250Ks. Don't say only, that's awesome. Do you ever head to the start line with an ache that feels borderline injury? And if so, how do you know when to DNF? Oh, yes. Every single race, I have something that's bothering me. And this is P.S. Love the Kofuzi shirt. Yes, thank you. Yeah, every single race. It's like a guarantee that the week leading up to the race, something is going to become some catastrophic injury that is threatening your race entirely. Every single big race I've had, the week leading up to the race, I've got something that feels like an injury that's going to end my world. And that has to do with tapering. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in your body and in your brain chemically that is causing a lot of these things to appear much worse than they are. You're not getting that dopamine hit. You're getting, like, there's just a lot going on. A lot of times you get a little depressed. A lot of times you just start worrying a whole lot more. But what I found is that, over the course of a couple of years of doing this, is that a lot of times it is actually just nothing. And show up to the start line and just go, just ease into it. If it really is an injury, you're going to know it. After a couple miles, it's still going to be lingering around. But typically, if it's something that showed up in like the last week, for me and my experience, like I still go to the start line and just go for it. And it usually ends up that it was just the taper crazies. See, Cole Smith, do you have any pre-race routines or superstitions? Yeah, I guess sort of. Most races, if I can, I will, this might sound weird, but I try to eat, some like beans or rice or like Mexican food, like the night before. I just found like if I can, go to a place and just get like some like decent, like just plant-based, like easy stuff to digest, that works the best. So like, I guess that would kind of be considered a pre-race routine the night before. Like the morning of, not anything really out of the ordinary. I do like, some stretches and some warm-ups, but nothing too crazy. Like I do try to spend like just a little bit of time, like just kind of like getting in my head, just kind of like focusing like on like what's ahead. But yeah, nothing like that. No superstitions. Thoughts on, Michael Powell says, thoughts on gels, liquids with caffeine during races. Yeah, I always save that for the end of the night. So like I try to save any caffeine for like that midnight to 5 a.m. Section of the night. I definitely don't take it during the day if I'm not like falling asleep, because there is a pretty big like you can tell like there's a drop off, like once that caffeine wears off, you kind of end up worse than where you were. But like if you really need it, if you're falling asleep walking forward, like take a little caffeine. But I try to save it for the second half of the night. If it's a race where I'm only going through one night. Christy Wiley, hi, just made it. Sarah O says the feed is a great option for buying a bunch of different types of gels, chews, etc. Nice. I never heard of that. Ageless Wanderer. Thanks, Ryan. I'll check out Chase the Summit. There you go. Dave, you can pay me later. Yeah. James says, check out Jeff's latest video on nutrition. Solid info there on strategy he uses. Oh yeah, I actually saw that pop up in my feed. I haven't watched it yet though. I will make sure I do. Let's see. I'm scrolling down to some more recent comments. Dave says, just know the Kofuzi shirt. When will we see merch from you? Yes. Hopefully I will have it timed out so that as soon as we hit 10,000 subscribers, the merch store will open. Hopefully that happens. Let's see. A lot of people talking about Barkley. Does anyone know about Laura? Here's a good question. Laura says, does anyone know about an emotional funk 3 days after a 50 miler? Yeah. Especially if it's a race that kind of ends your season. That's always a really tough time for me. If it's the last race of the season, if it's the big race I've been training for all year, there's a really big high for like 24 hours, 48 hours, but then pretty much like you said, maybe 3 days out, there's some negative thoughts, negative feelings that do come in my experience. And a lot of it just has to do with, it's a sense of loss. It's like you had a plan, you had something that you were shooting for, and now that thing is gone. And your brain might not really identify it any differently than something else that you lose or something like that. But like not having a sense of purpose, there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of have to work through, and it does get better. Like the more you do it, the more you kind of can identify it, and just be able to like know it's coming, move forward. Sometimes I don't know if the best advice would probably be to identify it and work your way through it, but you can always like pick something else out in the future. Maybe there's another race next year that you're thinking about. And so you maybe start jotting down some plans for that. Maybe just like look at a calendar and figure out, okay, what date is 20 weeks before the next A race? And okay, this is the date that I'm going to start training for that race. So I have 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is, of kind of downtime. So I'm going to kind of like schedule out these weeks a little bit. And I'm going to say, okay, the next 4 weeks is really going to be no structure, and then a little more structure, and then maybe some just fun stuff. And then 20 weeks out, I'm going to like really start a plan. Like sometimes that helps me, is just to kind of like pull out a calendar and just look at, what's out there. But I definitely do totally identify with that 3 day out negative funk. Plus that's when the DOMS is setting in like really bad. Let's see here. Leafy Bean says, do you think the fatigue you feel in your legs where it's difficult to run or walk towards the mile 27-ish of a 50K is due to not fueling properly? And then followed up by, or just training. It could be like, there's different, that there's several different things that could be contributing to that. Most likely it's just muscle fatigue, and it's just, you kind of reached the point that you trained for, which isn't a bad thing, because especially when you're running ultras, like you're going to hit that point in every single race. Like, but that's the point where, you learn a whole lot about yourself, and you, that's when the real ultra starts, is when your legs are just done and you have to just keep taking one step, and you just start putting these goals out there, and it's just, I'm going to get to the next aid station. And once I get there, hopefully I'm going to get something to drink, I'm going to get something to eat. If you're really in a bad spot, maybe you're going to sit down for 5 minutes. You time it. But that's when you start like putting those like small goals out there that you can attain. Because especially for an ultra 100 miler, anything like that, like your legs are going to start falling apart 40 or 50 miles. Like they just always do. So if you start thinking about, oh my gosh, I've got 50 miles left. Like you have to break it up. You have to make it smaller. You have to just get to the next aid station, just get up this climb, just get down, just get to the next mile, something like that. But I would say that there is also a chance, like you asked, if it's not due to fueling properly, because if you have like abandoned your fueling, there will be a point where your muscles, where there's just not a whole lot of, they can't maintain a certain speed anymore. So if you've been maintaining a certain type of pace, that's maybe like a zone 2, like a run, like maybe you're running like 9 or 10 minute miles or something. And then after 27 miles or something, you're like, maybe you haven't fueled properly for a little bit, and it reaches a point where it's like, okay, like now we gotta like take the gear down, like one gear. That does happen. Like you can pretty much walk for days. Like you could probably walk for, 5 or 6 days straight, at that low of an intensity, because you just have that energy stored up. But if you're trying to maintain a certain pace, you're going to deplete a lot of the stores that you have, and you're going to have to start supplementing with extra calories, extra carbs, extra nutrition. So there's a couple layers to that. But I would say most of the time it just happens to everybody. And it just like, that's where the ultra starts. It's right there when you think it's done. Let's see. Aaron Townsend said, let's see some 80s colorways in that merch. Actually, maybe. I like neons. I like colors. I like fun stuff. Let's see. Jeff says, Ryan, how do you approach your taper? How about dealing with travel before race? So yeah, good question. My taper for this 50K is very simple and very kind of dumbed down. There's not a whole lot of structure to it. It's just, I tried to have 2 kind of like bigger effort weeks. So I had a 70-mile week, and then I was trying to have another 70-mile week. But the Saturday run just didn't totally work out. And so it ended up being just a 60-mile week. So I kind of say that my taper started like a day or 2 early. And then it's just dialing it down. And typically if it's a 2-week taper, which this is not, so this is just like typically a 2-week taper, you will slowly drop the volume and just like slightly increase the intensity during that first week. Not anything that's going to get you injured. Like you're not out doing 100-meter sprints or anything like that. But you are slowly dropping your volume over that week, slowly increasing the intensity. And the point of that is to continue the same amount of stress if possible, but increase the amount of recovery time. That's kind of the goal during your taper, during that first week. And then the second week, the week before your race, there is literally nothing you can do to train and increase your chances of doing better in your race other than resting and pulling things back and just keeping things moving. There's no training. Really, in the last 2 weeks, there's not a whole lot that you can do, but especially not in that first week. There's like, or the week leading up to your race, there's no training that can be had there. The only thing that you can positively impact your race by doing is by recovering, resting, making sure that you're fresh. But that doesn't mean just stopping everything, because you also lose fitness incredibly fast. You're not going to lose everything in a week, but there's certain mental things that could happen. Like you might, like there's just a lot to it, but yeah, it's kind of like a 2-week taper. It's kind of like slow the first week, and then it really drops off that second week. That's kind of like that's how I usually like to do it, like with my athletes and with myself. For this race, for the 50K, it's a very limited taper. It's just 1 week and just making sure I'm rested and fresh. And the thing that I judge it based off of is if I'm feeling like crazy, if I'm feeling like I'm being super lazy and that sort of thing, like if that's going on up there, like I'm probably doing well, because that means that I'm freshening up and I'm like dying to get out there and run. And so then hopefully, when Saturday morning rolls around, I'll be just ready to go. So that's the goal. Let's see. James says, would be cool for you to do a live Q&A with runners post their races to talk about their prep leading up to the race day execution and recovery. Yeah. Awesome. So come back in 2 weeks. I'll be talking to my good friend Matt about everything that we can talk about, because he just did Barkley marathons. Well, he did one marathon, one lap. But yeah, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from tonight, Matt Cantrell will be on this live show. We were hoping to do it tonight, actually, but scheduling stuff just didn't work out. So ended up that, 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about that. But I would love to have, that'd be fun to have sort of like a panel or like a couple guests at a time. That'd be really cool. Let's see. So there's a question. There's been a lot of questions kind of about Barkley stuff that's been going on, and I really don't want to dive into that. I'm not going to dive into that because I feel like if you know that story and you follow, you're following the people involved. Today, like things are clearing up. But yeah, I will say that there is a lot of work that goes into filming a race, and a lot of it happens ahead of time. Should happen ahead of time. But yeah, I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, so I guess there was a question about, from Dylan, that says, what did you have to do for your permission at Western States? So there was a lot that went into that. But we had to get permission from the board. We had to get press passes. I had to get a personal likeness release form from Camille, and anyone that was like featured in it or named for more than a second, really. If it's just a passerby or something, you don't ever really have to get permission for that. But yeah, if anybody's named or called out or featured on screen for more than a couple seconds, like you have to get personal release forms. So like a really good example of that is when we did the Triple Crown series. So I was out at 3 races filming for 5 days each race, and then put together a 6-part documentary series. And it took like 6 months getting probably 100+ personal release forms, signed, or agreements via email or text, to just be able to publish those videos. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say. I can talk about my experience. If you have any questions about that, shoot, I can talk about my experience. Shoot them over here. But yeah. Motivational Theory Running says, I've always said there's nothing you can do in the last 2 weeks before your race. I've always said there's nothing you can do in the last 2 weeks but rest and or hurt yourself. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Motivational Theory Running. Leafy Bean Yoga says, I'm pretty sure I made it there around mile 29 after the fatigue wasn't going away after eating. Yeah. Yeah. I think because that's a lot of the final few miles of the race were a blur to the finish. Nice. Does that mean you're running fast? That's a good thing. But yeah, I'm really excited for this race this Saturday. I think it's going to be just a blast to be around. I mean, there's kind of, there's two sides to it. I'm excited to be around people, but it's also kind of like, okay, let's continue to be cautious. Like, we're in the 11th hour. In Indiana, they just announced that March 31st, everybody 16 and older is going to be able to sign up for the vaccine. So hopefully it's coming. I don't have it yet, but as soon as I can get it. Yeah, and soon as we can get back to more sense of normal, that'll be fun. So yeah, it's very exciting being in a situation where I'm going to be able to be around people and racing again, but still kind of like, okay, still be cautious a little bit, like we're almost there. We're almost to the finish line of this thing. But yeah, I'm really excited to test myself, see what it's like, because the last couple weekends I've been doing, aside from this most recent weekend, the last couple weekends before that, I've been doing 20 milers and putting at least about 4,000 feet of vert in there. So it'll be cool to see what I can do spreading that 4,400 feet out over 31 miles. And it'll be more shorter climbs too. So we'll see. It's a lot of rolling hills, stuff like that. But yeah, have some aid stations. Yeah, really excited. And then getting into the final, we're just under 8 weeks away from the Cruel Jewel. So after this race, we'll have 7 weeks left. So the breakdown is going to be, there's not much left. It feels like 7 weeks is a long time, but that's really not that much time when you're talking about training. Yeah, so I was also reading this really interesting article that Jason Koop wrote. If you don't know who he is, you should definitely be following him, because he's probably, I would say that, I trust him. I trust him a lot with ultra running coaching advice. But he was talking about vertical gain and descent when training for mountain races for people that live in flat areas. So I was like, whoa, this is like an article written for me. And said a lot of the stuff that I've been doing has been good. He also did mention that, kind of the biggest risk that a kind of like flatland runner is going to have going into a mountain race is the declines. That's how you say it, the descents, because it's the opposite contraction of the muscle. I can't remember exactly what that's called, but I'm just blanking on it right now. Not asymmetric. Anyway, it's when you're going downhill, you're putting a load on your muscle, but it's getting longer. Like on your quads, calves, all that. That is the biggest thing that you cannot train for in a flat area, because when you're going uphill, that is relying mostly on your cardio, and you can just slow down and you can go uphill. You can make your way up. But going downhill, you don't have as many opportunities for slowing down. And kind of breaking that up. So it's just a big load on your legs, and it's a big ask. for your body to do something like that. But he did have some encouraging stuff to say, is that there is not, like, you don't have to do that much to train to get to a good place for the downhills. And I think, Jeff, like, I think a couple weeks ago, I think you mentioned that too, that you had read something or talked to somebody about that. So Jason Coop, he recommends like 4 to 6 weeks out doing some sort of training camp where you have like 2 or 3 days in a row where you're just doing a lot of vert at an endurance pace and then recovering from that. And he said, like, there's a couple other things in that article, but that was the biggest thing. So I'm going to take that advice for sure. And about probably 4 weeks out, maybe a couple weekends in a row, maybe 6, 5, and 4 weeks out, try to really focus on doing just some big, like, monster days of climbing and descending, kind of back to back, maybe on a Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, something like that. And then continue doing a lot of like treadmill incline, because that's also really helping as well. Just like training your body to work in a different way, like, because it's going to be a lot of climbing, going to be a lot of descending. But yeah, I'm really excited. And then honestly, like, also, even looking past Cruel Jewel, I'm really excited to train in a slightly different way, a way more suited to my landscape. Train for the Indiana Trail 100 in October, and then maybe one in the summer. We'll see. Maybe something here in the Midwest in the summer. Yeah, Jeff says, yeah, you can train for climbs on the treadmill, but not the descents. That's what you get. Yep. Motivational Theory Running says, I had my first DNF last weekend at a mountain race I had completed before IT band injury and could not run downhill anymore. Mile 35 drop. Oh, shoot. Sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, IT band sometimes comes out of nowhere. Yeah. You can, like, I think in my, I don't know, you probably already have this, but there is something called the IT band strap that you can put around your leg. It's right above your knee. I have it in my Amazon store that's linked. Should be linked down below. But that thing has saved me so many times, because I do have, every once in a while, IT band syndrome will come back up. After I had it really bad a couple years ago for several months. But that IT band strap will take away, in my experience, it takes away like 80 to 90% of the pain in the moment. It's not something that you want to use all the time, but if you're in a race and you need to get yourself through it, like, that thing will work wonders. Danielle Henny says, do you think it's possible Ironman could or will go bankrupt? Wow. I don't know. I haven't really been following. If there's been some developments recently, I haven't really been following them. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think so. Like, I think as soon as the pandemic is over, they'll be able to get their races all back up and running. They might have some smaller fields for a while, but those things are so expensive to enter, like $1,000 just to enter. Yeah, I don't know. I think they would start cutting races, and if they started doing that, like, we'd see that happen first. Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll survive the pandemic. But, all right, well, I just noticed that we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes, so that's pretty long. If anybody has any last second questions, get them in and I'll answer them. Next week, Tuesday, I might be late. I've been doing this for almost a year, 9:00 every Tuesday night. But I have, for my church, we had to move and add some rehearsals, and one of them's on Tuesday night. So I'll be here, but maybe just a little late. Maybe we'll go a little shorter, maybe like 9:30 or something. We'll see. But I will let you guys know somehow. Follow me on social. But yeah, or just check back in. And if we're streaming, we're streaming. But I'll at least do it for a little bit next week. And then 2 weeks from now is my friend Matt is going to join me, and we're going to talk about all things Barkley. So if you have questions, we won't get into any sort of controversies or anything because that's not worth it. But yeah, all things Barkley we'll be talking about. Let's see, I've never had any issues with it ever out of nowhere. And I felt good. Just could not take the pain. It actually felt like just bombing downhill to get through it. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, that's the same experience I had. It just kind of came out of nowhere on a long run. I remember the exact long run. I remember where I was. I remember exactly when it started hurting. And it just came out of nowhere. And it was like all of a sudden I was walking within 10 seconds. And then it lasted for a couple months because I didn't go to physical therapy right away. But once I went to physical therapy, they started helping me and gave me some ways that could help it out. And then it eventually healed, went away, or I got stronger. Something happened, and now I don't deal with it anymore. But every once in a while, in a 100-miler, since then, it will come up. So I always do bring that and put it in a drop bag somewhere around like 50 or 60 miles, and I'll be able to tell by then if it's going to be a problem. But Dalen Williams says, thanks again for another stream. You're the man. Put in the work. Awesome. Thank you. Michael, thanks, Ryan, for another night of content. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon, for showing up as well. Thanks, Ryan. Happy to have caught the stream. Awesome. Well, you guys are great. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, let's stop it there. That was a good one. Good live stream. Thank you guys. I will see you again soon. Have a couple videos coming out soon, and a couple exciting ones on a couple embargoed shoes that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. And then hopefully soon next week, a race video. Can you believe that? A race video? So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining. I'll see you again soon. Bye.